Welcome to the Biz and Mayhem podcast, where we talk about the mayhem in our lives and how to get ahead in business and your career. This is Chris Batchelor, and I'm here with my co-host, Tara Parker. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to episode 29 of the Biz and Mayhem podcast. Tara, can you believe we've already done 29 of these? It seems like just yesterday we were kind of figuring out how to do the first couple.
No, it's yeah, I agree. It doesn't seem like there have been this many, but here we are.
And tonight we have another milestone. This is our first actual podcast in person.
Together! Finally! I finally got my butt over here.
I know, right? We wanted to do this all the time. We wanted to do this, together in one place, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And everything's remote, and so that's what you got. You got remote. But tonight we are back together, and I think from here on out we'll probably do most of these together.
Yeah.
And so we're really, just looking forward to that. Hopefully makes it a lot easier so we can't lose the internet, and then your guest is just not there.
Can interrupt each other a little bit easier now, now I can hit you and throw things at you like I used to. That'd be great.
Better duck.
Duck and cover, buddy.
I've seen your throw. It's pretty good.
That's right. Oh my goodness! So you want to jump right into this?
Well, I want to talk COVID a little bit because that's been kind of our shtick, right? Everybody's got to talk COVID.
Really, I thought that was dead. Isn't everybody vaccinated? We're all healed for the most part.
Did you get the shot?
People aren't gonna like my answer, but nope, I didn't do it. Not doing it. I just can't. I've had COVID. It wasn't that bad. I've had the flu. I prefer COVID. That's just me. Flu hurts. It hurts so bad. But I didn't end up in the hospital with flu or COVID, so I'm probably a healthier individual.
Right.
My kids didn't get it either. That was their option. They both chose not to. My elder son didn't get it, but I know people who have, and there's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong. Get the shot. Go ahead. But when they are doing the lawsuits later on, I am going to be pissed because I won't get any money from, those lawsuits that'll come down in 10 years. If you had the COVID shot, you may be eligible.
Should we do the commercial right here? If you received the COVID shot between 2021 and 2023, you may be eligible for a large settlement.
Yeah, there it is. Exactly. And there is a meme out there with that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. He's like, what? Yeah. It's like, there we go. And then, of course, I'm hearing the horror stories from people. My arm was dead. My arm was paralyzed, but only for a few hours, or I felt sick. I'm like, you guys are not encouraging me. I'm good. Thanks. We're all good.
I did hear, there were a few people that I knew that got, really sick after the first or second shot.
Yeah.
And it seems like people reacted differently. I mean,
yeah.
I went and got the shot, and I fortunately didn't have a reaction to it either shot, which is good. My arm was a little sore the first time, but after that, really nothing. But there's been a lot of talk about, vaccine passports and all this kind of stuff. And it seems like for now, cooler heads are prevailing and our freedoms are winning out. But that's a very fine line to go past.
It is.
I mean, I think I know what your thoughts are, but let's tell the audience what your thoughts are, because they don't know you as good as I do.
So thoughts on which part of it?
Just, vaccine passports and...
No, we haven't had a passport for anything else other than to leave the country and re-enter the country. And we're talking about medical information that's supposed to be private. It should be our own decision, and hopefully you're smart enough not to go anywhere if you're the kind that gets sick easy or does have a hard time. My parents, especially my dad right now, he's been, it takes him 30 days to get over the cold. So clearly for him, it would be better. But part of the deal is too, I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding that vaccine, it doesn't vaccinate you. It doesn't keep you from getting sick. It just reduces the symptoms, the intensity of the symptoms. And so for folks like my dad, yeah, it makes sense. But as far as a passport improving that you've had the vaccine, I'll just stay home and quarantine myself for a while. I'm cool. I don't need you people. I will stay home.
And ironically, the people that are really talking about this is the airlines and travel.
Yeah.
So,
well, one airline, I can't remember which one it is, but they are like, nope, just whatever. And they're going full blast again, but they just want to get people in the air. Maybe they're struggling financially, and that's got a lot to do with it.
Well, I think all the travel industry is really been hit really hard, and I can't remember which airline it was. I want to say it was Southwest, but I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the whole passport thing's kind of interesting because where do you draw the line, right? First the COVID vaccine, then, okay, do you make sure you have to have your flu shot? And then, next thing you know, I mean, it's a slippery slope there once you start
Yeah.
eroding it at people's freedoms. And, I think people in Europe are much more comfortable with this kind of a thing, being controlled by the government.
Perhaps.
But I know here in America, there's large portions of the population that aren't very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I kind of struggle with it because on one hand, it makes sense, right? I mean, if everybody's vaccinated, then it's not likely you're going to spread things. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, it's very much a personal choice, right? And so,
Right. Right.
yeah, I really kind of struggle with that one. I don't really lean towards the passport idea, but there's got to be a better way. Whatever herd immunity or whatever. And the thing that I struggle with too is that I don't think we really understand this disease as well as we should. And
Right.
there's still talk about, well, you need booster shots and,
Well, it's with the
and
flu. Every year you get a shot for the flu because it's
yeah.
not, it's a morphing virus. It's just like the cold because it's in the same family of
Hmm.
viruses as the cold is. That's the coronavirus. So it is going to change every year. There will be a new vaccine every year. And this vaccine isn't even necessarily for COVID. If you've done any research, and I did before I made my decision, it doesn't have the actual virus in the vaccine, which is what most vaccines have, is the actual dead virus. So your body's like, oh, I see you. You're evil. Let's kill you.
Yeah.
This one just basically has a little messenger map plan for if this happens, despite what you
Right.
already know about, fighting viruses, do this anyway. And I only say that because a friend of mine who never gets sick, he never gets sick. Doesn't matter what's going around. His body's like, nope, got that. It just zaps it right away.
Hmm.
He got the COVID shot and got sick with
Yeah.
COVID after. And he was kind of like, I don't ever get sick, yet here I am.
Yep.
And so it's like his body already had the roadmap for fighting off viruses. He's just one of those few. And
Hmm.
then his body gets another set of plans for this is how you fight this virus. And his body's like, no, it's not. But I guess we'll go with your plans. And he got sick. He's fine. I mean, his symptoms weren't severe, but he
Right.
does have some residual effects. So after he was cleared of having COVID, and after his 10-day quarantine with it, he still had rapid heart rate and low grade fever and
Hmm.
something else I can't remember. And he's probably smacking his face right now if he's listening to this thinking, I told you, Tara.
Well,
And I do this
I,
to him often.
I guess time will tell. We'll have to see, what comes out of this. If you truly are going to need some sort of a passport to travel even domestically, right?
I'll, I'll make like a South Border immigrant and I'm going to hop the fence and go wherever the hell I want to go.
yeah, I mean, even but that, where are you going to go? I mean, the choices of places to go where you have freedoms are severely dwindling. So,
Yeah. God, this needs
well,
to end.
with that, let's get into the newsroom here.
Let's do it.
This is the newsroom.
All right, so we got a lot of topics here tonight. Of course,
As usual.
this last week, the big news about the Chauvin trial
Yeah.
and Floyd, and but anyhow, lots of police news this week. So let's get right into it. The first one is police release body cam footage in a fatal shooting of a teenager girl in Ohio.
Yep.
And you were telling me a little bit about this. I really haven't been up to speed here on this, so you're gonna have to clue me in.
Let me bring you up to speed on that one. So just it was within a short amount of time of the verdict being read for the Chauvin, I don't know, the George Floyd trial. Within a short amount of time, this takes place in Ohio, and I don't remember the city that it actually took place in, but dispatchers, they send cops over to this address in Ohio, and a cop walks in, and you've undoubtedly most people, Chris, clearly you haven't, but most people have seen this body cam footage, and
Right.
you'll see it appear on the screen. Cop walks up, and you can see people kind of standing around. Then you see an individual that appears to be female charges another female, knocks her to the ground on her back.
Mm-hmm.
The cop is, hey, hold on, what's going on? He's trying to calm things down, hasn't drawn his gun yet until he sees the same person who has charged and knocked over the one individual.
Mm-hmm.
And now she is heading after another person. And this is when the cop realizes she's got a knife in her hand.
Oh wow.
And so it's not just like, we're not talking a paring knife or it is a knife. It's big, it's huge, and it's scary. Cop takes out his gun, and you can see it in the video. She goes to plunge the knife into the girl she's got pinned on the car. And before she has a chance to insert the knife into the girl with some force, the cop shoots her, stops her, she falls over, she dies shortly thereafter. Unfortunate, but the girl that was being threatened lived. So now, because of the timing and clearly the narrative of the media out there, there is a call that this is more racism between cops to black people. It's like, but it was a black on black crime and the cops stopped it. But it's not what we're marching and demonstrating for right now. There's people out there saying it's more racism. So, systemic racism lives on. And that's like, no, that's not what happened. It's, and the video is shown. I don't know, Chris, you know the term for it when you slow the video down and then you speed it back up and you get it frame by frame. Yeah, it's in super slow-mo, so you can just see the whole, it's like a panoramic view almost of a live motion picture. And you can see for yourself, because the original reports that came out said that the girl dropped the knife and the cops saw her drop the knife and then he shot her, and that is not what happened. She clearly is trying to force this knife into this other girl. It doesn't matter if they're 16 or not. People are ticked off. They're saying that the person who was had the knife, and her name is Micaiah Bryant, that she was the person who called the police. And at this point, it's like, but the cop told her, "Whoa, hey, wait, stop!" And she's ignoring the cop. And it was so fast. It was a matter of seconds.
Oh yeah, these things happen really quick.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I mean, so from what you're describing, this is totally legitimate response by the police officer. And the media is here trying to spin it as something else, right?
Well, yeah, when you see the headlines, you'll see basically 16-year-old girl shot by cop, black girl shot by white cop. You see those kinds of narratives. And if you're a person that just reads off the headlines and you don't get into the article, you don't realize it was a justified shooting.
Right.
And it'll come out as that. I mean, I'm no expert on police policy specifically in the Ohio area, but I mean, what else would you expect? Had the girl stabbed the other girl, one girl dies, the other one goes away to jail for murder, and then you've lost 2 lives.
Right.
And so if you're kind of weighing out the lesser of the 2 evils, I think what happened was definitely that. But it's just, you look at it, it's like a no-brainer almost. I don't know.
But I think you need to look at it from the perspective of the responding officer, right? I mean, you pull up on a scene, you have seconds to decide who's the good person and the bad person. You see somebody going to stab somebody, you're not necessarily, in your head thinking, well, I better not shoot this person because then I might end up on the front page of the newspaper for...
Right, self-serving, yeah.
Right, you're trained to, respond to these situations and react. Right. And, I mean, it's terrible that, first of all, why was somebody stabbing somebody else?
Well, that's what's, it's funny you mentioned it, because the tweets from celebrities are like, why would a cop bring a gun to a knife fight? These girls are solving their own problems. And it's like, at 16 years old, I don't know of anybody wielding a knife to solve a problem. This is clearly a bigger issue. And, but it just goes to the narrative. It's like just trying to make the cop look bad. And he, to your point, he only had seconds to make some serious split decisions.
Split seconds. And I mean, props to all those folks out there that are police officers right now, because I think I'm not sure if I was a police officer right now, I'm not sure that I would want to be responding to any calls,
Oh, well, I don't know if I'd be on the force, let alone.
I mean, for fear of being on the front page newspaper for being slandered in the media for a false narrative. I mean,
Yes.
and where's the, where's the, the journalism here, why are we spreading a false narrative?
Because it sells. Sex sells, and this is sex. I was listening to Steven Crowder today. I'm kind of getting into him, and my son is into him, so I listen to him to see where my son's getting ideas from. I mean, they tore this thing apart too, and it's clear, mid-stab, this cop has to shoot somebody, and once you've got that scarlet letter on your back, why would you want to continue to put your life on the line? Yeah, because now it's not even the criminals you have to be afraid of; it's the general mob, the general population now that. They're calling you and they want you to protect them, but when you do, now they're ticked. And what's even more interesting is that the mother of this 16-year-old that was shot is saying, well, she was a peace encourager. She promoted peace, and she was a motherly type. And it's like, I think
if you're out stabbing somebody with a knife, I'm not sure that I would classify you as somebody that's out there for peace.
I get extreme emotional duress if you guys are going back and forth and emotionally charged. But if you really are a peace promoter, that means you have emotional intelligence, which means you can walk away, and you will walk away.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She charged one girl and went after the next. And who knows if she was going after a third.
Man.
I mean, it was just quick, fast. There was just no time. And so I hate to say it. I don't want to say that I agree with the cop, but somebody got to go home.
Yeah.
Somebody got to go home. And it was the at the time, is based on what the cop had to work with. The innocent one got to go home.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking to that family.
Right.
Nobody's saying, hey,
Right.
what do you guys think? We're grateful our daughter's coming home. It's so sad about the other. Maybe our daughter bullied the other daughter, whatever. But they're martyring this 16-year-old girl that was wielding a knife, get ready to stab it into another girl to kill her.
Yeah.
So I think, in the words of several people today, our country is screwed up.
It is very screwed up. And, people, there's just a lot wrong with the things that are going on in the media.
Yeah. Oh, so much. So much. We're going to have a bunch of alcoholics before too long if we don't already. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
To drink our way through the media.
Well,
So-
that brings us to our next topic
Yeah.
here. So, we had Derek Chauvin was found guilty on 3 different counts, right?
3, yeah. 3 counts.
And people are asking, was this justice for George Floyd? And so, yeah. So the question here is, people are asking, was justice served for George Floyd in this trial of Derek Chauvin? And so that's the multi-million-dollar question. So everybody's been weighing in on that.
Yeah, everybody. And I don't think there's any division in the country that what happened was definitely not necessary.
Yeah.
Floyd could have walked away from that. Were there several factors to his death? I don't know. I didn't watch the whole trial. I watched the closing statements. I do think that we're going to see an appeal. On
Absolutely.
several levels.
I think the appeal's coming just because,
Maxine Waters
and Biden both commented on the trial, which is highly inappropriate and unusual. And, he may end up walking because of a mistrial.
Yeah, well, they can retry him on a mistrial. They can't retry him on if they found him not guilty, that would have screwed him.
Right.
Because double jeopardy kicks in. But from Maxine Waters that's what I'm so surprised by. Why is she not being impeached?
Well,
President Trump did not use these words that this woman used.
Yeah.
Very different.
There's clearly a double standard here, right? I mean, clearly it's okay for you to incite violence if you're a Democrat. I mean, there's no question about that.
Clearly.
I did see that somebody did file some papers to censure her, which I don't totally understand that whole process. But apparently, if they're successful with that, then they can kick her off with as chairman of the committees that she's on. And but it's just the fact that the Democrats can think that this is okay. I mean, this is what's a problem.
Yes, it's that political interference is a definite huge problem. When you get them down in the streets she's down there with the BLM mob saying we need to be confrontational. Those were her words, and that's what President Trump was impeached on, a word he didn't use, but they're like saying this is what you meant.
Right.
And then to hear Joy Behar saying, we knew what she meant. One little thing, y'all are jumping all over it.
Right.
Excuse me, Joy Behar. She literally told them, tell them we mean business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them, make it clear this is what has to happen. And then after Chauvin is found guilty on all 3 counts, the BLM leader, and I can't remember his name, but he's like, the only reason we got justice is because we looted, because we rioted, because we created these big, huge, damaging. And he actually said these words, because we did this. This is the only reason we got justice. No, sir. I mean, if you're saying that, then you're just giving grounds for appeal. So do not be upset. You guys have no business, no leg to stand on when the appeals court turns over the guilty verdicts, because they can. They have
Right.
solid ground to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, that aside, it's been interesting reading the comments, because I mean they range the spectrum, right? I mean, they go from he's guilty to not guilty to he got a fair trial, he didn't get a fair trial.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's all over the place, and it just seems like whatever your bias is, it really doesn't matter the outcome of the trial. That's what you're going to think about it, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's been on full display in the media, and everybody's got an opinion or two.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting. I mean, if you're watching us out there, drop us a note in the comments what your thoughts were on the trial. What's your opinion, and what side of this are you on? I think that certainly there's a lot of conversations to be had about race in this country. But I think a lot of people believe that looting and rioting is not the way to get there. But other people believe that it is the way to get there. So, You know, it's really all over the place right
Yeah.
now. You know, and I think the conversation that we do need to have is holding those in power accountable, right? And that goes from those members in Congress that are inciting violence to police officers, holding them accountable, to our judges and holding the judges accountable. All over the spectrum, there's a lot of not holding people accountable, and that has caused a lot of issues.
Well, that goes all the way back down to the situation that Floyd was in that caused his death. Is you had several spectators there with their phones out instead of calling 911 to say.
We've talked about this before, right? I mean,
Yeah, but
you know,
I still stand by it.
Put yourself in that position, right? I mean, everybody's there taking their phones. I understand why they're doing that,
Right.
and I mean, to be in that position to challenge a police officer in the wild, we'll call it, right? If you're out there, you're unarmed, and you challenge a police officer, then you know I think there's a personal risk to you, whether you're standing up for the right thing or not, and that is a problem.
Well, not even that. It's just even if somebody did call if you get enough phone calls in, you're going to get the right people involved. And somebody comes in and say, more cops that show up. It's another cop that says, "Get off of him
Right
now."
Well,
and actually put Chauvin under, because Chauvin should have been arrested at that point too.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. But I feel like the biggest failure here was there were 3 police officers on scene.
Yes. Oh, I think all 3 of them.
2 of them should have said, "Hey, that's not how we do it," right?
Right.
And that was it. I mean, you know, he did. I mean, you can hear him asking for, for some relief there, to let up because he can't breathe, right?
Well,
so I mean, at that point, the other police officer should have, been there for him. I mean,
well, pepper spray the guy, subdue him that way, so he's a little bit incapacitated. But even the EMS person tried to show up and say, "Hey, let me interject here," and they were told no.
I'm gonna, I want to stay as far away from I can as armchair quarterbacking because I wasn't really there, right? Who knows? You might have done something different, right?
Right.
But I think there's a lot of people that can agree that, this extended period of time of being held to the ground was inappropriate.
Yeah,
and,
like 8 minutes.
Yeah,
something.
8-9 minutes, whatever it was. And the failure is the other police officers were not there.
Agreed.
They were just going along with whatever the original officer was doing, right? And so,
at some point in time, you got to put the damn camera down.
Well, and okay, so
take another step. Do something else.
But this goes to another problem in our society, right? $20. This is all over $20. I think the real tragedy here is the guy had some issues. He had some addiction issues, right? And he obviously wasn't able to get those under control.
Right.
I mean, there is a long line of dominoes that fell here prior to him getting in trouble with the police here, right? And so I think the real issue is that society, whether he failed society or society failed him, that's kind of another conversation. But clearly the guy was not a high functioning member of society, let's say. Right. And really, I mean, $20, it's $20, just, it gets to the point where our communities need to do better by these people because basically, I think everybody's out for themselves. Right. And,
so does that mean we need to change the laws a little bit and restructure how we're like a counterfeit dollar bill? You just ban somebody from the store and put them on a watch list, and just like you do with bad checks.
I mean, why? Yeah, I mean, why? Again, armchair quarterbacking is really easy, right? Because you're not there.
That's kind of the point of all the conversations out there.
That's the point of the conversation. But I think in a lot of areas, to me, a core issue with our society comes down to 2 things: one, the family and family values, and family support. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't get the support they need within their families, right?
Okay. Yeah.
2, I really believe. So I think families is a big issue, and I think mental health is a big issue in this country. I think we do not take mental health seriously. We stigmatize mental health. We don't give people the help they need. We make it expensive to get help if you get help at all. And we really don't I don't think we have a very good track record of taking care of people mentally.
I think there's some truth to that. When I worked in the university, we had mental health services available for free for our students. Unfortunately, it was overused. and I'm by or abused is probably the word I'm really looking for, is a student would say, oh, I'm mentally ill and I can't complete my assignment, so I need to go see the person and get some free help. And then you get to work where you don't have that available to, and we'll actually touch on this with my media's pick for the day. Where there's somebody available immediately there in the office for you to say, I need to sit down, discuss this. I can't function because this thing is on my brain. And you work with somebody to help you walk through those steps. And I can agree with you. The mental health has definitely got a part in it, but I don't know that it played the biggest part in Floyd's death unless Chauvin had some issues with anger management and things like that.
I think it plays on both sides, right? I think George Floyd had some mental health issues going on. I mean, he was obviously on some, on something. Fentanyl. He was on fentanyl, right?
Fentanyl, yeah.
And out there doing counterfeit, money, right? So
upstanding citizen.
I mean, I'm not even going to go there, but clearly he had some problems, right?
Right.
Clearly Chauvin, maybe should not have been a police officer. And I'm sure that there were trigger warnings prior to that happening. I mean, these things never seem to come out of nowhere. It's like, oh, well, yeah, there was that warning, but, we didn't do anything about it. And so I just think it's all the way around. I mean, I think from the family side, from the way I see it, the family perspective is, those are the things that help you not have, chemical addictions and not help you go out there with counterfeit money, right? Now,
well,
maybe some families that's a thing. Right?
I'll give you the mental illness and the fentanyl. Usually drug addiction is attached to some sort of mental struggle that you're not dealing with, some sort of trauma, something you're not dealing with exactly.
Right.
But using the counterfeit $20 bill, we've got a fine here there we might be splitting. But I mean, ultimately Floyd didn't deserve to die over this particular situation.
No, absolutely not.
Chauvin, a former officer here that has been found guilty after learning and understanding what the charges were and applying those to the situation. At first I was not in favor of him being found guilty of all three, but then once I got to understanding, I could see how he was convicted of all, because it's almost like a timeline of events. He could have stopped here, could have stopped there. And so, but it's going to be overturned anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, what's the culture within that police department that allowed those other officers to stand by and watch that happen? Right. It's terrible. It's absolutely awful. And and sadly with this whole, rioting and looting thing, over the summer, what we really haven't seen is change within that police department. I think they defunded the police a whole bunch, and then the citizens started complaining that there's too much crime. And it's like, well, duh, so I mean,
what did you expect?
How do we appropriately handle these things?
Well, but part of the problem is that you only have what the media is telling you. There's a whole bunch of other stories out there about black cop versus white perpetrator crime, black to black, white to white. I mean, this is not the only thing that cops are doing out there, and that's the very sad thing. There are hundreds of thousands of millions of stories out there that the media is not reporting on because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Right.
And I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. That's a very difficult platform to argue. You just can't. It's hard to disagree with the idea that there's not some sort of agenda out there. Well, and today, with the most recent shooting is very apparent of that. Dante Wright's another example of that. Unfortunately, they're exploiting these individual stories for the wrong reasons,
right.
And that's what angers me about the media overall. And so I do hold them accountable as well for this entire. I mean, for our conversation we're having to have now, the media's got sold. They didn't have to do this. There's a whole bunch of other things out there to report on. Find something else. It's getting old.
Yeah. So certainly lots of conversations to have. Certainly very complex issue. Certainly lots of sides to it. But anyhow, let's talk about something a little more cheery. How should we do that?
Something happier. So tell me, what did you choose here? Celebrate the inaugural class of female Eagle Scouts and their journey. So I know the term Eagle Scouts, that's affiliated with Boy Scouts, but I see female. So this has to be affiliated with the story you brought up earlier, how girls were joining the Boy Scouts, and this was a good thing.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, the Boy Scouts opened their ranks to girls, so girls can now join the Boy Scouts. And in case anybody's wondering, what happens is they'll have a troop, but then they'll actually form a separate troop with the same number, and that's the girl the girl version of the
Yeah.
troop, and so the boys and girls aren't generally intercommingled to camping and things like that. There's two separate troops. They have separate leadership. They have all that sort of
don't
stuff.
we have Girl Scouts for that, though?
We do have Girl Scouts.
So am I missing the point? Because it sounds like it's going to go co-ed, but now it's still separated.
So here's the deal. The Girl Scouts program and the Boy Scouts program is a little bit different. The Boy Scouts program is obviously more male oriented, right? A lot more outdoor stuff, a lot more camping, things like that. And families were having to choose what activities they were going to, right? So you have a girl and a boy, and you have Boy Scouts, and you may have soccer or volleyball, or baseball or whatever. And some of the feedback that the Scouts was getting was, we just have too much going on. We've got to cut something. Right.
Oh, okay.
And so, the girls weren't really joining any sort of scouting activity because, the boys were going or, something had to go. Right.
Right.
So the Boy Scouts said, well, what if we open our ranks up to the girls and then you can all do it at the same time? It's just a lot easier on families.
Right.
And so I think I don't ever, from what I've read about it, it didn't really start out as a power play, but it kind of turned into a power play. And so, anyhow, the Girl Scouts were really pissed about this, and there was a lot of really sad things that the Girl Scouts said that was very bad from a PR perspective on the Girl Scouts. But that's all been 2 years ago. But now, 2 years later, the first class of girl Eagle Scouts, has graduated. And it's really a huge accomplishment because only 4 to 8% of those that join Boy Scouts will actually attain the Eagle Scout rank, which is the highest rank that's there. So, really kind of an awesome thing and just something to celebrate. And, certainly we wish we were selling Girl Scout cookies in the Boy Scouts. My son's a Boy Scout, and I do a lot with the troop, but it's really good to see the diversity coming in, and it's not just a boys' world.
Well, there you go. I'm not familiar with it, but it sounds like a fabulous thing.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of controversy, and
yes,
for sure.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about that because there's some things that I think it's more popular for girls to join the boys than for boys to join the girls stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so so far what I've seen is that there is no option for the boys to join the girls.
Well, and I'm not talking just about the Scouts thing. I'm talking about just in general. When you've got the girls club versus the boys club, more girls want to join the boys club, so to speak, and less boys want to join the girls club. And I think that does have a gender role specificity to it, along with, I think guys take a hit to the man card. I think they get a little corner clipped when that kind of thing happens.
Right.
And I know we don't talk about the man card. It's like the Fight Club. You don't talk about it.
The first rule of the man club is
talk
you don't
about
talk
it anyway.
about the man club.
Well, and I say that because I know my buddy, he gets he's very confident with himself. He's learning to be more confident every day and learning about what he can and can't do. And he just does whatever feels good. So if that means he drinks a foo-foo drink at the bar with the girls, then that's what he does. And the guys are like, really? Are you going to drink that with a straw? Can you at least not drink it with a straw?
Right.
And so he takes some hits. He's like, what's the problem? It's like, that's not manly. I'm like, there are some things you guys do that aren't manly. Well, we do that in closed, nobody can see us. We don't do it out in public.
Don't show the ego, right?
Right.
Don't damage the ego in public.
Well, and you got to have, and that's kind of part of the guys club too, is you got to have that one dude that all the other guys make fun of. And that's kind of like his entry, his little ongoing initiation, ongoing hazing, if you will, to you just have that one dude that just you kind of drag into it. Like, come on, guy, come on, you can do it. We're gonna make fun of you till you get this. And so it's just interesting how there's a lot one way, but not as much the other way. But that's good for them. That's awesome. If that's a good thing, I'm happy for it.
Yeah, it's definitely something a little bit different, and I think in a lot of ways it's really good, and it certainly starts a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And there's really nothing that the Boy Scouts do that the girls can't do. Well,
and I think because that's how long can you be in the Scouts for?
So you start, I think, around 12.
Okay.
11 or 12, and then it's through 18. So,
well, if I follow you guys do a lot of camping.
Yeah, we do a lot of camping. During the school year, we generally camp, and then there's a summer camp that they go to. And
so I could see why that could be difficult for girls to be involved with, because you're talking about that age where kids are changing from kids to not kids.
Right.
We're trying to be as family friendly as possible, but puberty
kids
kicks
to monsters to teenagers.
Let's talk more about puberty, but we could go with that term too.
Right.
So, and with girls, it's hard to be out in the woods, and you're being a girl thing kicks in, and you gotta. I don't know if there's facilities or that's not something you really want to do out in the woods. You know what I mean? Like that's difficult.
I think every troop is different. I mean, we generally go to state parks where there's bathrooms and.
So you're not just like out in the woods, just wandering off in the wild.
there is backpacking trips and things like that, but those aren't the majority of the time.
Okay, so there's some considerations there. Okay, well,
and they did. I know at the summer camp that we went to prior to COVID hitting, they did have, since it was a Boy Scout camp, it was like, well, all the bathrooms are boys, right? Like,
I've used guys' toilets. I don't appreciate it because there's no toilets, there's urinals. It's like
right. But what they did was they said, okay, well, these ones are now designated for the girl, for the girls, and we got told, you do not go into their campsites and use their bathrooms. Like,
yeah, but why? We do that at home, don't we? We share the same bathroom
we do.
at home. I mean, what's the difference? That's why I don't mind the unisex bathrooms.
Yeah,
we do it at home.
It's I think more of a liability thing when you're at a camp environment like that.
Yeah, but I mean, to the point, don't use a girl's bathroom. We're gross. We are so gross. We blame one another for it. We're not even trying to, like, that's not a prideful thing. We're like pointing to like she did it. Right. We didn't do it. No, the guys were in there. That's not us. It's like, no, clearly that was a chick. Like, come on. So yeah, keep your own. Trust me on that one. We're doing you a favor.
All right, so moving on here, we have good on Hyatt because this is a little bit of an older article. We did take a little bit of a break on our podcast here.
Yes.
But Hyatt basically, they were going to hold CPAC, which is a conservative gathering, conservative conference, right? And the liberals tried to shame Hyatt about it and get it moved, and Hyatt said no. And so good on them. I don't know that there's a lot to talk about here, but I'm just proud for some sort of brand standing up for our freedoms.
And not embracing the cancel culture, I think.
Right.
Not falling for that and just doing what you normally do. That's outstanding. Now, this one I am truly excited about. I love the fact that Parlor is back.
Yes, Parlor is
back. Yay! I know that sounds dumb, but that was the one space you could go to and see both sides. You saw mostly conservative, clearly, but it was cool. You could go out there and you could exercise your freedom of speech. I didn't like everything I saw in there, but that's okay. That's
so I mean, another platform. I guess they found some place to do web hosting and put their data, so. We did see some news that maybe Trump was thinking about starting his own social media, or maybe starting a web, web
we had
place.
A conversation about that. We were taking bets on what the name was.
We were. So I don't know where they found to host their information, but they found some place, and they're back on Apple on the Apple iTunes now because apparently they said they will censor hate speech and things like that, which I think is really ironic considering. Apple itself doesn't exactly censor hate speech in a uniform manner, let's say.
Yeah, it's not a two-way street,
because you have Twitter and Facebook, which has a whole lot of hate speech that they don't censor at all. And so, but I guess the big deal here was they wanted Parlor to have some sort of a mechanism to review and then ban or kick off people, that sort of thing. So I guess they've re-met the terms of service, and so they're back. So
welcome back, Parlor. I never took you off my phone. I'm a solid, loyal user. I just need to see if I can log in now.
Did you open it at all?
No, I mean, you know what? I can just do that.
So I tried to open it like 2 months ago, and there was just nothing there.
Yeah,
no data at all.
Yeah, I'm back on. My picture's there. Nothing's showing. I mean, there's no feed, but
nobody's like crickets.
Updates from people. So I need to probably go back and refollow everything and find people and. Let me check my subscribe. Yeah, it's clear. My profile looks like it's still there, but that's awesome.
It. So it looks like they moved your your account over, but they didn't.
Yeah, and you'd probably lose information on that one. That's okay. At least they're back.
I didn't even know where mine is. I get too many.
You're
ads.
Like Bo. He's got so many. He just scrolls through screen after screen. I'm like, did you think about folders? He's like, no, I know where it's at. It's fine. It's here. I get to it.
Yeah. So we'll have to take a note here that we'll have to put something for Biz and Mayhem on Patreon. Or sorry, not Patreon, on Parlor. We got too many P's.
We know what you were thinking. We want
Right.
money.
But
That's what he's thinking.
speaking of Patreon, it's time for you to plug Patreon.
Oh, do you have me? I might have a script. What am I supposed
No,
to do?
you just got to do
I'm
this
just
from
gonna
the
go
heart.
with it.
Just got to go from the heart.
Gosh, we haven't done this in a few weeks, and I have so.
Send us money.
Send us money. This is not hard. How difficult was that? No. So we've been hosting this show. It'll be a year this summer. Do you realize that we're coming up on?
I know it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
It is. And so it's not free to do this, but we love doing it. We love bringing information to you, our audience, to you guys. We love interacting with you. Clearly we're not live tonight, but when we are live, we'd love to kind of bring you guys into the show and give you that firsthand feel as you communicate with us and we talk back with you. And so we've got a few different tiers that you can subscribe to keep us going. Hopefully Chris will bring it up here. What are the tiers?
So we have, you'll have to give me a second here.
So there's like 3 tiers. I can't remember the price points on them, but if you go to patreon.com /bizandmayhem, you'll find us. He's trying to bring it up and I'm not doing a very good job ad-libbing here, but there are 3 different tiers. There's one that's like $3. Another one's like, oh, there it is. There. Yep. $3 a month, $15 a month, and $100 a month. So for $3 a month, you'll get Discord benefits. You just get to show your love for the show and it helps us out. $10, we have some meet and greets. We get to sit down with you. You can give us your ideas. We can do some bonus content. And then for $100 a month, we'll do a one-on-one strategy call. And it's either us helping you out with stuff, or you can even give us advice. We'll make this a two-way street if that's what it takes to get you to sign on. And then we'll still do the meet and greets. If you have your own company or you have your own establishment here in the Wichita area or not too far off, we can even make some arrangements to do the show live from where you're at. We're definitely willing to work with you guys to keep us going. So, check us out and kind of throw some Patreon bucks our way so we can keep bringing this to you, because at some point in time, we're going to go broke.
Well, we are broke now.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
That's
So,
not news to
for
me.
$3 a month is our intern level, and that will get you live access to the show. So when we record the show, you get to see us live, and with all the none of the editing, you get to see just all the mistakes and everything, which is kind of fun.
And you missed a big one a little bit ago.
Yeah. And you can interact with us while we're recording the show. So the cost of how much was your Starbucks?
That's not important.
I'm guessing your Starbucks was more than what we're asking per month.
If I did not have my stars, then that tells you how much I use Starbucks. If you're a Gold Star member, and I am, this was $3.15.
All right, so for less than the cost of that drink,
one
drink, you can join us, be at the intern level, and get access to the show early. And you can also get Discord benefits, which we have a Discord server set up so you can talk with us throughout the week.
Yeah.
You can just chat. It's a little bit more private than Facebook, and show your love for the show for just $3 a month. And if you really feel like splurging, hit that manager level at $15 a month, which is basically a lunch per month, which isn't very much, and we'll give you some additional privileges there. So go support us at bizandmayhem.com. At the bottom of any episode, you'll see the links to join the Patreon levels, and we sure would appreciate it. So with that, let's go on to our career workout.
It's time to work that career and lift and push and lift and push. You got it. Now harder. Lift and push. It's the career workout.
All right, so for career workout, we have a rather unique topic tonight. We're kind of departing off the lane of careers, but I think we're going to circle back to it at the end.
It's still a self-improvement. That's what career workout is about.
That's right. It's
self-improvement.
It's all goodness, right?
Thinking about it.
So this week for the career workout, we posed the question, or you posed the question on your Facebook, for a first date, who pays for the dinner? Should the guy pay? Or should you go Dutch, or should the girl pay? And you got a bunch of
it's interesting responses.
Very interesting responses.
So I brought this question up, and I really should have done it on the Biz and Mayhem Facebook page, and that's my fault. So I did it on my page because somebody came to me and was they'd had a dud of a date, right? And there was a situation where he was on a date. She was yapping about her independence. And at the end, she kind of expected him to pay. And he's like, what happened? And so I was like, that's interesting. How do you, in today's dating world, how do you deal with this? And so I posted the question, if you're on a first date, who pays and why? That's what I really wanted, was the why. Because I heard a lot of, he pays. Okay, well, why? I can see that. And so all the guys, except for a couple, and they private messaged me because they did not want to be crucified on the social media platform. But the guys that all responded, and you can go, you can see it. They all said the same thing. I'm a dude. I want to pay for her. And some of them, even you, Chris, had said, it's nice if she makes the offer. That's great. And I appreciate that, especially if she seems like the independent type who wants to show she's going to take care of herself. But I really do want to pay for it. Several guys were like, this is a man's thing and this is emasculating otherwise. Now, I did have the sneaky few, like I said, they hit me on my PMs because I did say, if you don't want to share your why out in public and make yourself known, then tell me privately. And one in particular, and we're going to refer to him as Mr. Exceptional. That's how he's asked to be identified, and we will go with that. So, Mr. Exceptional, thank you for your feedback.
All right.
But he said that...
Shout out, and don't forget to go support the show at patreon.com. $3 a month.
I think he needs management level considering what's going to happen here. So he gave me some juicy stuff, right? He did. He said, if I'm taking her to a high-end restaurant, you better believe I'm getting something out of her at the end of the night.
Oh.
Like, well, looky there.
That is a 1950s type
raw
attitude.
Information. I was like, good for you. And he's like, this is why I'm not posting it out there.
Right.
I know people are not going to appreciate this. And but he said, but yeah, if I'm really making an investment for the night and there's a good click, then yeah, let's make this happen. It's like, well, are we talking Applebee's investment? Or are we talking like Bonefish? Like, where's... And so he agreed, like, if it's a high-end restaurant where the experience is part of it, then he's hoping that experience carries through.
Right.
And so, and he knows it's not he's married now, and so that's not even a thing. He does expect his wife to put out the end of the night when he pays for dinner. He did tell me that one. And so, you know who you are because you know who Mr. Exceptional is. So just in case he took you out to dinner tonight, be prepared, honey, because it's happening, whether you want to or whether you have a headache or not. But a couple other guys did say, it is nice if she lets me pay. If everything is sparking and it's looking good, then yeah, I would like for it to go. I think you cut me off. I'm not sure. I can't hear me. They were pretty honest in that I would like for a little something to happen. Doesn't have to be sex, but I'd like for a little bit of engagement. But it was funny because almost all the women were like, oh, we're going to go Dutch. Who asked who out? That's what really matters. And, if a lot of them were like, I'll just pay for myself. And it's like, I was kind of curious. I'm like, well, how many of you actually do that?
Right. Yeah.
And how many of you are just saying it? Because it's just like the normal dinner date, right? The guy offers to pay and she's like, I would pay for half, but I'm not going to.
Right.
And so very few of them actually said, I have paid. There's a couple who have said, if I've asked you out, then I fully intend to pay for you. And I talked with a friend of mine over the weekend and she said the same thing. And she's in a homosexual relationship. And she's like, yeah, anytime I invite you out, then I'm paying. And if you invite me out, I'm still going to try and pay for you because that's what I do. I'm that person in the relationship, in any relationship. So it's kind of interesting to see how that went down. And the response, and there's still, Bo's mom chimed in on that one. That was fun.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's, so I had to tease Bo. I'm like, I think she has a different opinion of you than what's actually going on. He's like, I asked you out and I paid. I'm like, no, I know you paid, but I basically asked you out. So maybe I should have paid, but.
Well, so for me, I really started to reflect and I'm like, okay, what is this whole thing about paying for dinner, right? It's a cultural norm, right? From one perspective, it's a cultural norm.
Yeah.
And it's been practiced for
ever,
as far as I know, for a long time, right?
Right.
And I think this is something that seems to transcend cultures, whether it's, European or American or, anywhere across the world. I don't know about, maybe Asian cultures, maybe it's different. I'm guessing not. I don't really know. It'd be interesting for folks to chime in about other cultures and say, what's the expectation? But for me, it's like, okay, well, I started to think, well, okay, so the man pays for the woman. This comes back from, the 1950s where, there was an imbalance in monetary resources between men and women, right? And I know some people will, people will still say there's still an imbalance, but by and large, I think that women are quickly making up that gap, right?
I would agree.
And so But we're talking about gross imbalances when, women didn't have any money at all and the men controlled all the money. So of course they had to pay for dinner because
Right.
women had no means to pay for dinner. Right.
Well, I don't think women were
So-
asking men out at the time either.
Right. I would agree there. And so it's interesting the responses that came back, because it was like, well, whoever asked who out should pay for dinner.
Right.
And that's, that was one response. There was other responses that, well, like, I'm the man, so I'm going to pay,
Yeah.
and so it just, it's interesting to see, sort of the broad spectrum of responses that we got, but it really got me to thinking, what is this whole man pays for dinner thing, or the guy, is it, and what I started to think about it, is it a practical thing stemming from, when women didn't have any money at all? Is it a power and control thing? Because if the men pay for dinner, then there's an expectation from the woman, that's a power and control dynamic. So really, what is this thing? And I guess you can chime in from that respect and see what you think. But I was certainly, I did have some fun reading all these comments. You did have, we can bring it up here. You had over 175 comments on this. What's interesting is only 7 likes and 175 comments, which is usually the other way around, but a lot of comments, a lot of really good discussion on this. And,
well, and the whys, that's what I had to pull out of people, is they would say something. It's like, well, why? And I think one guy just said, guy pays. Why? That's the way.
And you know who you are.
Yes. Well, and that was the other things. I had a couple of guys say, that's the way I was raised. I'm like, but that's not a why.
Yeah.
You were raised that way. It's
Well,
almost a crutch.
in a sense, it is a why, right? Why? Because it's always the way I've done it. I mean, that's a why.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. I just, I don't, doing the coaching that I do, when I hear somebody say, that's the way I was raised, I'm like, nah, you still make the conscious choice for a reason. Mm-hmm. And so, but like a couple of the guys said, their chivalry's not dead, and they like offering that sense of, I can take care of you if you like. And I know Bo does not like for me to pay. That's his thing. He loves to, that's his love language.
Yep.
I have snuck in a few payments in there a time or two. I think the first time I snuck it in, we were celebrating his birthday, and everybody else got one part of his bill and I got the other part. He's like, what the crap? And then after that, it's like, really, for reals, I want to pay. This is what I want to do for you. Otherwise, he pulls out his wallet and he pays for it. But I always tell him thank you.
Right.
There's no, and if I forget to tell him at the time of dinner, I'll go back with a text or call him and say, hey, by the way, just want to let you know, I really appreciate dinner tonight.
Yeah.
And I was curious, and I asked that question of several women, do you say thank you? Because if you are saying, he pays even though I insist, are you sincerely thanking the man for that? Because that is something that I think men do appreciate, is to hear that recognition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's, anytime, somebody pays for somebody, you want to be appreciated for it, right? But,
absolutely.
I guess, where I'm at is, I fully expect to pay for dinner when I go out with somebody, whether or not I ask them out or they ask me out. I think it's just...
You do that on a platonic level too, because we've had several interactions out
absolutely.
in public, and I'll have my card out. And you're like, nope, I got it.
Yeah.
It's like, I was gonna okay, I guess.
But that's just me, right? But I will say I did think it was interesting about the comment about seeing what she does when the bill comes, right?
Yes.
If she offers to pay or not, I think tells you a lot about that person,
right?
And who they really are, because they can say who they are all day long, but that action will show you who they are.
Yeah, and that was another conversation I had engaged with. I think actually talking to Bo, it's like he's dated some independent women, and I'm probably the most stubborn of all of them, which is probably why we're still together, actually. But I asked him, it's like, when you hear somebody yapping away about, I'm independent, I take care of myself, I don't need anybody's money, and the check comes and she doesn't offer to pay, what does that tell you? He's like, no, I actually see that point. If she goes on and on and on, it's almost like she's pushing that message onto you. What are you supposed to do? I do like what one person said on there that's like, well, I hadn't seen that comment yet. There's a new one on there. I'll have to read that one. What does that say? I am, and I've been off the circuit forever, but what I remember is the date I did go on after being married 2 decades was never an issue. I made sure that when I was finally willing to give somebody a chance. Oh, I didn't see more. Let's see. That's a long answer. I'm not doing that one. We'll read that one and get into it later. But one person said, really, like she came in with the original, this is how tradition says you should do it. But if you're looking for a one night stand, go to a crummy, dry hamburger joint, pay your own way, and then take care of your business for the end of the night. Like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That was outstanding. That was probably the best comment. And it came from a woman. I loved it. So, yeah, it's it's an interesting, it's an age-old question. It's getting to be that way now. It's
Yeah,
who pays and how do you figure it out?
I think it's interesting. What I wanted to bring it around to, of course, this is the Biz and Mayhem podcast, not the Dating and Mayhem podcast. Although that one, maybe we should do that one.
I was going to say, we have some interesting conversations.
But here's the thing, at work, how is this dynamic different, right? Because, when I work with females at work, I don't see them as female. I just see them as another, coworker, employee, boss, whatever. I don't necessarily, and I know it's cliche to say I don't see gender,
I agree.
But I don't feel like I treat people differently because they are female or male, and I've not gotten feedback that I have, right? But
I've worked with you, and I can say I don't see a difference.
I mean, I guess my litmus test for me is I don't expect somebody who's male or female to act differently, right? I'm not going to assign things based on their gender, right? Yeah. And so, but I think at work, it is an interesting question. How do we deal with differences of gender at work? Are there still biases that need to be worked on, and that may depend on whether you're a big company, little company, whatever.
Right.
I don't know. What's your thought on that? I mean, I'm obviously not a female in the workforce. You are. So I don't have firsthand experience there.
So I've had this conversation with other women, and let's point out the obvious. I was taller than all of them. And this is important because the only people I hear complaining about the gender issues at work are shorter women.
Well, that's interesting.
The taller women that I've gotten to talk to, they don't complain about that. And so... Right. And I think the more confident women, the more secure women who don't, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too this, I'm too that, they don't seem to have any issues either. But for reals though, I've been tall since I've been this height. I'm 6'1", and I have been since I was 15 years old. I have never had anybody say, oh, you're a girl, you can't do this. You look weak, you can't do this. That's never been an issue for me. But I've got a very good friend down in Stillwater who's probably... I can't remember how tall you are, honey, but I think you're like 5'5", 5'6". You're short unless you're in your heels. But she gets catcalled, and she gets comments made. You're going to get, if she's been down the shop because she used to work in aviation, right. You're going to get your blouse dirty down here, honey, or things like that, because she is very well put together like me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's funny. I don't get that. Everything you guys, and I've heard a lot of women go into, the issues, the biases that they feel like they have experienced. I'm like, I don't get it. Sorry.
Well, I think it's because when you have a conversation with a guy at work, the most of them are like this.
Don't hit me.
Hey, up there.
No, the only guys I've had guys of all kinds challenge me, and I've had one guy come at me with his emotions. He's a taller guy. He's taller than me, older guy. And he's used to that bureaucratic type of management where he's like, I'm going to show you my emotions. I'm going to get my way. And that part was like, and he did the same thing with everybody. It didn't matter if you're female or not. And that's like, you can be mad at me, son, in the same pants you got happy in. I don't care. When you're done being mad, come back at me. We'll talk about this. So I think there's a lot to do with your presentation. If you're confident, guys can smell insecurity and fear like bees can. Like
so can women, right?
No, we're not as good at it.
Oh no, I think women are better at it.
They don't know what to do with it then. I know I can tell it, and that's where I try to, depending on what I'm using the situation for, you kind of exploit it or you make it better. But I don't think women can be very nurturing and very like, oh, you poor thing, I don't want you to feel bad. And then there are your power women who are very much, you're down for the count, let me kick you.
Just getting ready to say that. You don't typically see the nurturing side of women at work.
Well, I think they're afraid to show it.
I think that's a generalization, right? Because, obviously some people do, but I think by and large, at least, the folks that I've come in contact with, you don't necessarily see that nurturing side because I think people see it as a weakness, right?
They can, yeah. But I think at the same time, women don't know. I think they feel like they have to prove something. And I think of somebody in particular right now that I have worked with, and they feel like they have to prove it. And it's like, no, You don't.
So
You
so
really
let me spin this back on our original topic, which was who buys dinner, right?
Right.
And so if at work we are basically essentially not male or female, we're just coworkers,
Coworkers.
employees,
Right.
right? Then why is there still this expectation on the dating circuit that we're going to revert back to this older gender stereotype model of the 50s and 60s?
Well, I think there's supposed to be some compartmentalization between your work persona and your play persona, which is why you don't mix business with pleasure.
True.
But you're also now work culture the overall general work culture is changing with inclusion, diversity, and belonging, and you're supposed to bring your best self to work, which, by the way, sometimes your best self is the jerk. So people need to keep that in consideration. But I think how do you play into that when you have you decide to go do a working lunch? And you don't have a corporate card to pay for it, who pays for it then? And that, how far does that go?
I think at lunch it's generally accepted you go Dutch.
You would think so, but guys still step up and say, "I'll pay for that."
Right.
And it's like, well, all right, I got
and that's the question that I was getting to before. In that context, at a work lunch, and the guy says he's going to pay for a gal. Is that a power move? Is that a control thing?
See, I think women will see into it depending upon their insecurities. I think anybody will read into it depending upon their insecurities.
Yeah, everybody's going to interpret it differently, right?
So for me, I'm not the insecure type. I think you know me, Chris, and there's not a whole lot of things I'm insecure about. So when somebody says they're offered to pay, it's like, okay. I mean, I'll pay my way. I have no problem.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I'm going to do it. And I've had that conversation.
I think everybody's a little different though when it comes to that, right?
Well, it's almost like, well, if you're paying for me, then what do you expect?
Yeah.
All right. So it's almost like sexual harassment at that point. You bought me lunch. I'm not. Or what do you want in return for that?
Well, yeah.
So I think there is a fine line there, but then you take it, like you said, you take it outside of work. Why has it changed?
That's just it. If it's why does the scenario change just because the context of the situation, right? I mean, if we're going to truly move society to a point where males and females are equal, which I think everybody's on the same page that's a good thing, right?
Equal is an interesting word. I like balance.
Okay, so balance, but again, okay, so it's not balance though if you have one expectation at work and another expectation at home.
Well,
or in your social life, I should say.
I think that it's case by case.
Yeah, it probably
really
is.
But I think if you, gosh, it's such a difficult.
Yeah,
that's a slope, and it's not necessarily slippery, but you can certainly fall down it.
And we're definitely not going to. I mean, it's not that this needs solving, but I don't think there's one answer for this either, right?
No.
But my question was, I think it's a good thing for people to think about and to ponder on and to really dive into, what does this really mean for them?
Well, and I think that was kind of leads into one of the points that was on here is it's a sense of self-respect to pay for other people. There were a couple of guys on there and a couple of them I know personally that do pay for everybody else's way.
Right.
And one of them happens to own the company and he not only pays for his employees, but he'll pay for his friends when they go out.
Sure.
And to him, that's part of his personality. And I know a gentleman that we were on a group lunch and somehow he got stuck with all women, the poor man. But he was military, his background, his raising, his standards, everything about him. And in thinking of his own daughters, he's like, I would want somebody to step up and provide this sense of respect. I expect nothing in return. And he was actually very grateful we thanked him. And he was like, oh, hey, you're welcome. That's awesome.
Right.
And so I think there's a level of self-respect that you need to honor with other people. And I think it really specifically goes to men, that this is a way of most men's love languages is respect. And this is how they like to show it, is using their money in this kind of strange context. And that's cool. It's lunch. It's just a meal. It's fine.
Well, it's certainly a good conversation to have, I think. And to me, I really started to think about it in a different context of what really is this thing? Is this just, like I said, is it just society expecting us to do the same thing over and over again? Is this some sort of power play? Is it a respect thing? What really is it to me personally? And how would somebody else perceive that? And I think the answer is everybody's going to perceive it a little bit differently. Yeah. Right.
Well, and hopefully you're not going on your first date with somebody that you can't kind of read well enough to realize he's going to want to pay.
True.
Or she's going to want to pay, and I need to figure out, hopefully you've thought that through, especially in this day and age with so many independents.
But I think it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
Internally and with your friends and family and things like that.
Well, it's in your kids, and since it goes back to the rearing.
Yeah,
that's the way I was
goes
raised.
Back to family, so.
So, yeah, I agree. Interesting.
Definitely an interesting topic, and I think we could certainly talk all night on that.
Can't we always?
But now it is time for Media Madness.
Welcome to Media Madness.
First up, I've got my pick is, of course, we all love Samuel L. Jackson. I know you do. I love him.
I do.
He's great.
He's awesome.
He's really funny.
I can't do any of his quotes without cursing because.
Well, that's the Samuel L. Jackson thing, right? But did you know that you can get Samuel L. Jackson on your Echo?
Yes, and Bo and I were playing with it one night. And do you know when you can put it on the I have several Alexas.
I knew you were an Echo Alexa fanatic.
It's thanks to Bo. I wasn't going to do it. He brought the first little lady in a tube home.
But but they're like cockroaches. You get one and then
they're
they
everywhere.
multiply.
They do.
Yeah.
I need one for the garage now that I'll be working out in the garage more. But yeah, that thing is so cool. And you hear Samuel L. Jackson coming in on that. It is the funniest thing. It is hilarious.
So
how'd you find out?
We were, I think it was online somewhere that I ran across it, and I was like, oh, I've got to try that out. Well, I know how it was. We were the kids and I were doing funny things, and we ran across Samuel L. Jackson doing GPS directions. And so
Turn left.
then the next one was, you can get Samuel L. Jackson on your Echo. And it was like, that's so cool. So we installed it on our Echo.
Can you imagine Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, I can't. I mean, just go Google or go use your web browser search engine of choice.
That is awesome.
And go find Samuel L. Jackson GPS
That
directions.
is outstanding.
And it's kind of an overdub video, but they were a few years old, but it was pretty dang funny.
It makes me want to put directions in my phone for my house on the way home tonight. I'll get pulled over by the cops. I'll be laughing so hard all over the road.
No, it was pretty good. So you can put him on your Echo. He'll basically be the voice of your Echo. And it's really cool because when you ask him things, he will come back with a short quip. And then, you can say, hey, what's the weather outside? And he's like, I haven't got time to give you the weather, but it's 78 and sunny outside.
It's in that yelling voice. I haven't got time to give you the weather. That's awesome.
You can ask him to put things on your shopping list, and he's like, I'm trying to memorize my lines. Echo, can you put this on the shopping list? And then Echo chimes in. So it's really cool how it works, and just like kind of something to break up the day.
That's awesome. I would be doing that one. We'll test that one out some more. That's always fun.
And then what have you got going on here?
So Bo and I, we're getting to be binge watchers. We're so old in our relationship. We're boring. And then COVID doesn't help much. So we've been couch potatoes, and we got through all of the available episodes to Yellowstone. I shared that with you guys, and we've gone through Stranger Things and looking for something. He got told about this one. It's Billions. It is a Showtime original series. We just completed season 3, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, it was hard to follow at first because it does talk about trading, stocks and trading. And so if you don't understand that industry, it's a little hard to follow at first, but once you catch on, it's great. Mm-hmm. It's a show based on Axe Capital, and it's clearly a shady type of company.
Right.
It
wouldn't make for good TV if it wasn't, right?
Right. Clearly the feds and the district attorneys and attorney generals should be involved with this guy. What I loved about the writing is outstanding. It's just some of these one-liners that you see character involvement, you see these one-liners coming out, they're outstanding. I think we have found my dream job in this one. If I can ever
What's that?
Performance coach. She's a psychiatrist. Clearly I'm not credentialed to that level. But she's the person she's the mental health provider. And, whenever somebody's can't focus, because this guy wants laser focus. If you've got an issue, go see Dr. Rhodes and get fixed. And so they'll go in there and they'll talk their problems out with her. And she's like, blah, 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 blah. Now go do your work. And they're like, yeah. And now the interesting twist, if I don't know if it's on screen, if you can put it up there, Chris, but her husband is the district attorney of the whatever region that this guy operates his business out of. And that makes things very difficult because she's got patient confidentiality, and he's trying to nail her boss, and she can't talk about things. And so the bedroom talk is very different. Lots of really weird twists that balance the characters out. Like the attorney general has a very dark sex addiction to him that includes S&M, and the wife has to help him through that. So she dresses up and she whips him around for a little bit, and you're like, yeah, because And it's a power struggle, but it's not the kind of like good versus bad. It's bad versus bad. These are both bad people doing bad, stupid things. You're like, I don't know which one. It's like Hillary versus Trump. You don't know which one to vote for, and you have to try and figure out.
So you're telling me this is guilty TV?
Oh my
Guilty
gosh, it
Pleasures
is awesome.
TV.
Yes,
Yeah.
you sit there and you just binge watch. And unfortunately, they're almost hour-long episodes, so binge watching takes like an Olympic
Forever.
event.
Yeah.
But it's addictive once you get past the first couple of episodes. You find that character you want to see more of. And this is a little ahead of its time, actually. They have a gender fluid character on here by the name of Taylor Mason. Their pronouns, I mean, they introduce themselves, I'm Taylor Mason. My pronouns are them and they. And you're like, oh, so this is before all this gender stuff came out.
Sure.
And I mean, there is a scene where you do figure out their body gender. Like you can clearly see some things. You're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
But you just love this stinking character. Like they did an outstanding job of putting this one together and really selling it to you. So it's a definite one. If you haven't started, get on it, start watching it. It's exciting. Definitely highly recommend it. I'd like to be binge watching it all the time so I can get caught up before the next season starts. But it's just if you like those little, they did it, now we hate them. Now we hate them. Nope, we hate them. It's that back and forth fun power struggle. It's great.
Well, I'm definitely gonna have to check it out because I'm running out of series to watch.
That says something.
I've binge watched 2 different series now, and I'm waiting for new episodes to drop. So
yeah, this will be the one to.
I definitely need something new.
You'll like this. The strategy that goes into some of this stuff. It aligns with some of the stuff we've talked about. It's really cool.
So in other words, I have to actually pay attention. I can't just put it on in the background and walk around.
You can, but you'll stop what you're doing, so you'll hear something. You're like, "What? What was that? Hold on, let me watch that again." It catches you, and it'll make you sit down. It's
Awesome.
outstanding.
Well, you want to bring this home?
I can. I'm going to read, so you guys won't actually see me looking at you because I haven't. It's been a while.
You haven't memorized this? We've done this 29 times.
I know.
Come
we
on,
took like
you're
a
slacking.
6-week break. I
know, we did.
I've been teaching, dude. I've got students pissed with me right now. Are you kidding me?
Uh-oh. Did you turn in grades?
I need to. I've got some more grading to do.
Just give them all A's.
They're basically getting A's. They're great students. This is not a hard job.
Why is it hard to grade? Just
because I got to put forth the effort. They put forth the effort. That kind of thing. It's discussion posts. I did it to myself.
You need a TA. Don't you get a TA when you teach?
Not as an adjunct. An adjunct professor does not. But I'm going to bring that to my boss.
Deal.
But I mean, my boss had to sit down with me today. She's like, you do realize that evaluations are coming up and I'm getting some bad ones about you. I'm like, oh, I should probably get on that.
Yeah,
okay,
you should probably fix that.
I'm still going to teach. Doesn't matter. But bringing this to a close, we thank you guys so much for listening to the episode of Biz and Mayhem podcast. If you like this episode, show us a little love by posting a review on iTunes. And don't forget, like we said earlier, to send us a few bucks on Patreon or PayPal. We'll love you forever, especially if you get on those tiers, because this podcast is not free and we want to keep doing it. This is fun for us. To get the show notes for this episode, head over to bizandmayhem.com. Look for season 2, episode 29. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, have some fun in the mayhem. We'll see you later, Chris.
We'll see you later. Have a good one.
Have a great one, guys.
The Biz and Mayhem podcast is produced by Check 6 Creative Studio. If you have a podcast or been wanting to start one, let us know. We'd love to help you produce and edit your podcast. We'd also love to work with your business on marketing and video production. Visit us on the web at check6studio.com. That's CheckSixstudio.com. Let us know you heard about us on the Biz and Mayhem podcast.